intro, so let her rip, Wyatt.
All right, man. Are you gonna do our little?
I'll just add it on like post.
I got you. That's weird, dude. This is different.
Well, I know we normally record in the studio.
Because when we're in the studio, you play it, and then I know when to do it. This is awkward.
So we're using StreamYard, the live software, to record, which we've never done before. So this might be a giant failure.
So how is it, Shane? Is it pretty simple? Like, do you just hit the record button and it's fine through StreamYard?
We're already going, dude.
Really?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I was just wondering because I don't know. We've never done this. So.
We are 39. We are 41 seconds in at the top left of the screen.
See,
I can't even see that because I'm on my phone.
I was waiting for you to do your little Ron Burgundy.
I can't even see that. Man.
You should include all of this, Shane.
I'm going to leave it. I'm
not editing this out.
We're going to leave this.
Well, I can't even do the intro. If that's our intro, we might as well just get into it right now.
Well, yeah. Well, I thought you might want to do your little welcome to the juice, everybody.
I can't do it without the music, bro.
You can't. You need the hype music to get you going.
It's not the same, man.
It is a little early. So we're doing this one early. We got Mr. Ronnie Moore here.
I can do the Bass theme music. You want me to do? I can ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yes. That actually gets me hyped up.
Yeah, for real.
Honestly. Well, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Never recorded one in the morning. We're usually fishing or something. You, on the other hand, are used to recording in the morning.
Yeah, we are used to earlier mornings than we've gotten. So tomorrow through, I guess, the end of the month, every day is going to be an early morning because we got the Elite at Wheeler. We've got an open with some other studio stuff we're doing. Justin Hamner's coming in the next week when we're doing Eufaula, Oklahoma. He'll be our guest, and we're going to do some classic TV show stuff with him. And then the week after that, we have Smith, and then it's the 4th of July. So before we know it, we'll be 3/4 of the way through the whole season just with this 3 in a row.
Busy schedule.
Yeah, happens quick. It's crazy. We were just actually talking with it's a pretty big event around our area, around the Sam Rayburn area. And Dakota Ebear was there, and we were just kind of, he's our buddy, so we're just messing, talking with him, and he's like, dude, like there's still 5 events left in the open season. It's like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't even realize it. I was like, man, you do have a lot of events left, and it's crazy. It's like I was talking to him about it. Like that's like the last trail that goes. Like it goes so long, and
I truly love the opens for that reason. I mean, we're halfway through. We're 4 events out of 9, and Dakota's done his job through 4 of them. But it's so easy to not do your job in 2 of them, and you've only got like 2 or 3 left to catch back up. And so it's a day by day and hour by hour thing. But I love that the opens go from early February at Okeechobee and will end in mid-October at Hartwell. And so you truly see, now that we're doing all 9, before we'd do 3 or whatever, and you'd have 1 or 2 in the early in the year, and then the last one of the division in the fall or towards it. But now you really see guys have to fish pre-spawn, spawn tournaments, smallmouth, fall fishing tournaments, hot summer tournament. You get to see they got to do it all. And so to see those strategies, like John Garrett last year with the one big smallmouth event at the St. Lawrence, he said, I just don't want to take a big gamble and make a big risk and mess up the season halfway through. And so he played it safe, and they ended up being his worst finish, a 60th, which everyone will take a 60th as your worst, but he played it safe. And so it's like, when do you go for it? When do you not? Because there's 200 boats, and if you fall flat, that's a lot of points left on the table.
No doubt. Trey McKinney did the same thing, did he not? He didn't run very far from at the St. Lawrence either, did he?
Yeah, and you didn't necessarily have to because the lake was off limits, so they couldn't run out into the lake, but you could run in the mouth of the lake if you wanted, or you could go here or there. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the whole dynamic. That's what I love about, even though we go to the St. Lawrence every single year, and we have since I started on the Elite Series, basically covering it in 2014, it seems like every year we've been there. every year it's different. We either have just the river and we're taking off out of Waddington. You have the lake in play and we're taking off out of Waddington. Maybe the lake's in play, we're in Clayton. We go through COVID, only U.S. waters are in play. There's just so many, like, we've been there so many times, but there's something different. So with how the lake has been the last few years, now this year for the elites, we're taking off out of Waddington, and our 60 guys going to go to the lake. Those who are out of the classic cut that need to get in, those who are fighting for AOY, those who need to stay requalified. Like, there's so many that will need to go probably. So it'll be a good strategy event. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of factors. And this year for the Opens, we were just talking about that. Like, you've got St. Clair, you've got Leech Lake, and you got Mississippi River, 3 places that will throw you for a loop right before we go into the fall at Hartwell, where if you go catch 7 pounds a day, you could lose it in the final event too. So it's kind of a lot of newness, even if we know these bodies of water because of the time of year or the pressure on them.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of shakeup in the points, usually anyway. Last year was kind of one of those years where these guys that would kind of separate themselves from the pack, where you didn't really expect them to fall, in which they didn't. But there was a little bit of shakeup towards the end of the season. I know, like Brett Cannon, he's another one of our buddies. He was kind of right there, and just, man, you hate to see it, but a couple of I don't even remember what his bad finishes were, but staying in the top 9 and falling out at the end, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, and Tyler Williams was 27th going into the final 3 events, and he wins. Right. He wins Watts Bar, gets a top 10 at Ozarks, gets a top 10 at the Harris Chain, and he makes it. And so you're like, actually, how far is too far out? Kyle Jesse and I just did podcasts for Bassmaster going into the Wheeler Elite. We've got 4 events left, 2 in Alabama, 2 in New York, and we were like, how far is too far back to make the Classic? If you're 100 points with 4 events, you can't slip, but you could do 4 top 15s. Like, you could still do it. And so the Opens are even more dramatic, especially because past Open seasons, you'd have a lot of people who are out of it, and maybe it was tough fishing, or they had qualified for a 2-day event somewhere else, or their club championship. And so they're like, I'm out of the Opens. I'm just not going to fish the last one. So then you have like a 140 person field or something. And now all of a sudden it's a lot easier to stay in because there's less people to fluctuate. Yeah. And so now with everyone fishing all 9 and most of the field staying all season, you're not safe at all. And people are still fighting for the Classic. They still have that incentive. And so, yeah, the fluctuation there at the Opens is something that's why I told Tommy Sanders this, like we talk about, I love the Classic for a 1 event deal, best 1 event in the world. The Elite Series is so fun because there's it's the highest level, biggest money for bass events, things like that. But the drama in the Opens, that's why I love covering the Opens, and I get to feel like a little bit more of an expert. There's some guys and you're like, who's that? And you're like, he fished a high school championship in 2017 and him and his partner got 3rd. And like, I just like remember, I just know it doesn't matter if they're old guys in the Opens, young guys. Like, I've seen them somewhere, like Andy Newcomb. He's in the top 15 in the points. Yeah. Never fished a bass event, but I knew him because of BFL results at Lake of the Ozarks, Table Rock, like the Midwest region. I'd see him do well, and same thing with Brad Jelnick. Like, those 2 guys are Ozarks guys, and I knew their names. So when they jumped in the Open and made the top 10, people were like, who are these guys fishing 1 event jackpot? I was like, I know who they are.
Hold on a minute.
And and so I love the Opens for that reason. It kind of, I feel a whole lot more comfortable when others covering the tournament are like, who's going to factor this week? I'm like, well, here's this dude, and here's this guy over here, and he's actually really good at this lake, and that kind of thing. So,
well, man, you've always that's what's pretty impressive about you. You always had a knack with everybody in fishing. I mean, you seem to know all these stats. I mean, matter of fact, I'll text you when I have a stat question. Usually, I'm like, hold on a minute, are you just abusing my my brain power, my fishing encyclopedia that I have?
I had to create a spreadsheet because I was on vacation when you texted me a few weeks ago about the youngest AOY winner, or I think that's what you said, right? The youngest.
Yeah.
And so obviously Trey's the youngest at everything. And so if he continues, of course he'll win. But I was curious there of like, who's the youngest otherwise, and like those different things. And so I looked it up, and It's hard. I'm going to open the Excel spreadsheet right now because that's the way I remember a lot of things. And if I write it in a spreadsheet, I know I won't forget it and I'll be able to see it again. But I did, let's see if I can find it real quick. So I did the math, and it's very difficult because the 70s and 80s, I don't know when their seasons finished. I don't know what events went towards winning AOY. Like, there's no news articles that are on Google that like I can say so-and-so wins 2020 AOY and it pops up the final event where we like crowned it and I see the date. So it's hard to get an actual like age for some of these guys. But for let me see, the Bassmaster Angler of the Years. Yeah, and so I've got I think KVD in 92, he was 25. That's the youngest I've seen. Van Dam again, he was 28, in 99 when he wins. Or wait. Oh, no, he's 28 in 96. He was 31 in 99. And those are probably three of the youngest years of anyone because Lucas was 32. Polinick was 29. Welcher was 30 last year. And I even have it years, months, and days. Larry Nixon, when he won in 1980, he was 30. Bill Dance has to be around 30 because he was born in 1940 and he won in 1970. And so Roland was born in 1940, and so he'll be 31, 32 in his years. He first won. And so it's pretty cool to see that. But yeah, I was kind of like, dang, that's one thing I do not know. I better find out. And so the only other one I'm wondering about is I think Timmy Horton was 28. He won as a rookie in 2000. He's the only rookie that I've known to win Rookie of the Year and Angler of the Year.
That's really cool.
Wow.
And he did that in 2000, but I think he was 28 and change. So KVD 25. So Trey's got 6 years to break that record.
Wow. I think he's gonna be all right.
I think he's gonna do well. We'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's a hard one to win.
Who knows? It's just and I just say that not about his skill, but will he be all right? Who knows? There's a lot of people gunning for him. So
will he be okay? We actually had Trey on not long ago.
Actually, we'll put him into witness protection at some point.
Yeah.
We had Trey on not long ago, and he's so far, at least to the public, he's handling it pretty good. He stayed pretty quiet and been pretty professional, and hats off to him.
Hard for a 19-year-old to do, especially with the pressures of possible heroes and mentors and people you looked up to that may be critical of you. Like I dealt with that even at Bass, like coworkers, like people that I admired. And you may have like a tough interaction with them and not getting offended or not letting that affect your relationship going forward and just being, and then getting better from it. So, he's handled things well. And if he's doing everything the right way, then we will, that'll play itself out. So, but he's been, I say he's weird. He's got a mixture of like Casey Ashley, of Gerald Swindle, of Jordan Lee. Like he's like a mixture of kind of country Southern, he's a, I can't even say if he's handsome or not, because he's 19. I think you're still like, you can't be, I think he's just like, I think he's just cute or something. Like girls would still call him cute. So Trey is just a young guy that's kind of got a mixture and a good future ahead of him, especially with how well he speaks and how well he catches them.
Yeah, he's got that fishy, that's like there's like when you talk about Jordan Lee, or somebody like that, like the only way you can describe them is like they're just fishy, like they just kind of like get it and they're not scared. What I've noticed about Trey, which is very interesting, as for a 19-year-old, is not being scared to like make those, like just go fishing in the tournament, and that's a really kind of veteran kind of mindset that he has, and I really. I like it. I think he's wise beyond his years there, and I think he'll be really good.
I think that's the hard thing, that winning an elite event and winning an elite event in your second event and winning 100,000 relieves a lot of stress. But it also now, when you start, this as a tournament angler, when you start to just fish freely and like you go with your gut, but you can make those changes. If you start making bad changes and going with your gut and it leads you astray a few times, then you're questioning it and you get in those slumps. You see veterans now who've won elite events, who have been so consistent, and now all of a sudden they're not consistent. You're like, they could be questioning their decisions, and like they went with their gut and fished freely, and it led them astray. And now they're afraid to go with their gut. And if they would have in this event, they probably would have unlocked another deal to win or to be in the top 10. And so it's you start then second guessing, and you're like reverse psychology. You're like, my gut's saying this, so I'm gonna do the opposite. And then you're like, you should have just listened to it.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. It's like after being on here and talking to some of these guys that are successful, it's the biggest thing. Like it's like that's the key right there. Like being willing to adjust and being free and trusting your instincts and your gut during the event. Don't worry about practice or whatever during the event. It's just like that's the biggest bone in bass fishing. That's it right there. If you can hone that in and really just have confidence in yourself and your abilities during the event, and make those adjustments, man. That's like the biggest bone in all of bass fishing right there. So.
Well, I talked to Greg Hackney in our classic interviews on Tuesday before the classic starts. He's one of our 10 camera guys. So we talked to him well in advance of the tournament. And so we ask, overall questions about winning the classic, or how's the lake setting up this week before we go into the final day of practice, and what changes and all that stuff. And I asked him about technology, because that's one thing that the older generation has that younger generation just isn't allowed to have yet. And that's that inner voice. That's that instinctual confidence of, I've been there and done that for 30 years. And you've got a 19-year-old. How do we expect him to have that ingrained in it? He can't. He hasn't fished. He hasn't been around enough to do it. So, the younger generation can make up for some of those decisions with technology. And I talked to Hackney about it, and he said, which I have this clip, and I might post it on the Bass YouTube because it's just worth hearing his thought process. But he said, he's like, I will struggle in events because I am still good enough to be stubborn and do what I think's right. Like I'm not, where there are guys who are like, I'm not good enough to overcome technology. I need to lean into that. He's like, I am still good enough to do well without it, that I will do poorly because I do not utilize it to its full capabilities sometimes. And he said, but I can tell you one thing. When their graph breaks or something on the boat mechanically goes wrong and they no longer have the asset that they were using to help them, and they maybe spin out or they maybe lose an hour or two to go get it fixed, he said, I won't spin out because I still have my brain. I still have my mind, which is the most powerful thing that I have. And so I know how to just, okay, I'll just shut off all my graphs and I'll just go do this or that. And so seeing some of those guys who have that killer instinct, they know how to catch them with or without electronics. That's what I've said the whole time is, will it be a young guy's game forever now? No. I think guys like Stetson Blaylock, Drew Benton, Patrick Walters, Drew Cook, Brock Mosley, Luke Palmer, the young enough guys that are also raised in the just going fishing mindset. When you mesh that, Brandon Cobb's another one, if you mesh that and be the best electronics and just fishermen without them together, that's our next generation of stud. And that's what Rick Clunn said. If you remove that technology from the sport, you'll never truly see who is the best, because because you got to see who adjusts to it or who decides they don't want to adjust to it.
Yeah. Oh, that was, we love that episode. We often quote Rick Clunn when he talks about that. That was awesome. But, I could also see young guys. So you got young guys that are learning to adapt to technology, right? So let's fast forward 10, 15 years, 20 years in the future. You take a Trey McKinney who's been in the game for a long time, which we all probably assume he's going to stay in the game for a while. Those guys are going to be able to adapt to the new technology that keeps coming out. So even when they're going to be towards the veteran side, they've learned to adapt to technology so fast that I could see them, staying relevant, versus now we've kind of just hit this new era of technology, and some of our older guys are kind of getting left behind.
This is the first big, history of fishing. Like it's. Yeah. I even said it about our founders and stars. You think about the NFL, the NBA. They have baseball. They have their first decade of stars have passed away. They're old enough, their league's been around for longer. So they've seen their life course come to pass. But in fishing, we still got Roland Martin. We still got Bill Dance. We still got Larry Nixon. We still got Bobby Murray. We still have, so our sport's still so young that really these jumps have been slower, but this is the
Right.
first big one. I said this, like, forward facing sonar is the first thing in bass fishing that has retired anglers. It will be the first thing that retires anglers, just like the 3-point line retired guys who are low post, big men. But we see now, and I'm a huge basketball fan, and I talk about, Shaq would be dominant right now because he is the best low post player.
Yeah.
You would have Larry Bird. He would be dominant. He's one of the best mid-range jumpers. But if you're not the best guy, if you're not Greg Hackney, the best with a jig, Denny Brower, the best with a jig, if you're not Jason Christie, the best with a spinnerbait, it's hard to stay a one-trick pony or try to do that. And they're not one-trick ponies, but like, you have to be the best at what you do and pioneer something to carry it through changes like this. Whereas others, now we see 7-foot big men standing at the 3-point line because they can shoot a 3-pointer because they see the value in it, and that's the game plan. And so now you see, could big men these days just dominate the block? For sure. But does the game call for that? No. You got to have all 5 people be able to shoot it. And so now we see our sport of, can you just fish a jig? 100%. Will you win Angler of the Year? Probably not. Can you make a classic and maybe do well in an event or two and get top 10s? For sure. Will you be the best, go down as the greatest of all time if the generation started now? No. You got to do it all. And so what's funny, we've always called for that. We've always called for versatility. Like, that's what we've preached to young kids. They were like, what do I need to get better at if I want to do tournaments? And they're like, everything. Take your weakness. Leave. That's what they said. Leave everything at home. Take the one rod you stuck with and go fish with it all day. And don't worry about, if you stink at finding schools offshore, leave your rods at home and idle all day until you figure out what a school looks like on side scan. And nowadays it's those people, those anglers who preach that to the younger generation aren't willing maybe to go just dedicate a full day of practicing it. Or if they are, like, it's going to take them a week to do it or 2 weeks to do it. So that's the change. And so I said, that's live scope, forward facing sonar is the first thing that's going to retire a generation of fishermen because they don't want to do it or because it's such a big jump in learning. And so, and that's no disrespect. It's just the first dramatic thing we've seen. If the A-rig was on the Elite Series, we might have seen that as well. We might have seen guys who didn't want to do it, started getting smoked by it, and didn't want to play this game anymore. Like, that might have been the thing if it ever hit the Elite Series. So it's an interesting thing we see, but I think that there's a generation of 28 to 36-year-old guys right now in the Elite Series that they can really go from being, man, just ever so consistent, what a stud, to this dude's going to rack up and be one of the best, statistically.
That's it's a really cool way of looking at it. Because you're right, our sport is young comparatively to the other. This will probably, for us, this will be historical for our sport. At some point, we're going to look back at this, 10 years from now or whatever. I'm like, dang, dude, remember, everything from 2020 to 2024 between the split and then the, this deal with the technology. It'll be a historical deal for our sport, this time period that we're in. But that's a really cool way to look at it. I've never really looked at it like that. But you're right. Our sport is young. Like, my heroes, like, I grew up watching this sport. I'm 28 years old now. So you're right. Like, that's all that's all I ever heard was you need to be versatile and you can't replace time on the water. And like, you can't replace hard work. If you want it bad enough, you can have it. Like, that came from my guys that are still in the sport now, like, that I watch now. And some of those same people are not, listening to their own message that I heard when I was 15, 16 years old. And it's crazy. It's a crazy, kind of deal we got going on in our sport, but I've never looked at it like that. That's really, really cool way to look at it.
Well, that's what I think. I talked to Tucker Smith the other day on the podcast, which was a great, like, as quiet as Tucker is and reserved, and he was laughing and smiling. We were having a great time. I was like, this is the Tucker we have gotten a little glimpse of. But in that, I talked to him about Aaron, and he was talking, because if you think about it, Ray Scott, Forrest Wood, Charlie Campbell, Aaron Martins, like, Aaron was so young that it's caught the whole sport off guard when he passed away. And how he would be in this generation. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about how good he was without and now with? And Tucker said, Aaron told me, and I'm saying me as in Tucker. Tucker saying, Aaron told me, you better learn your electronics because that's going to be the next big thing that could dominate, and you need to be with the 8-ball or ahead of the 8-ball. Yeah. And Tucker's obviously doing well in the opens, almost won. He's had 4 shots on goal at the Classic and gotten second in all of them. Like, you know, he said 2 opens he's gotten second in, and 2 Classic brackets for college he's got second in. And you're like, when are you going to make it? But Aaron told him that a few years ago. And not that he like immediately threw all of his jigs away and just went to work on, but like Aaron saw that coming and knew the power of it. And he already knew the power of electronics with 2D back in the day. And so I know Aaron would be this could have been, you know, you see some of the stars tail off at the end of their career. Dude, we could have seen like a revitalization, like Aaron start dominating again, because he had dominated and then took a few years of, you know, obviously health issues. But like if he didn't, he could have, his stretch could have been long. Like he could have passed KVD in some notion of statistics, not overall though, because KVD won so much and Aaron got second so much. But overall, like we wouldn't think KVD, Rick Clun, you know, Aaron Martins would have been like a quicker name in our mind at the top of the GOAT rankings.
Absolutely. He was such a tinker technique guy. Like I didn't know him that well. Met him a couple of times, you know, I cast whatever, but we have some mutual friends that, you know, talk about him a bunch. One of our buddies in Alabama that he visited quite often, Mr. Joe. But anyway, he, you know, so he would have been, you look at this whole minnow thing, right? Like he would have been the best at it. Like he's such a good finesse guy. He was always really good at finesse fishing. You think somebody would have figured that out? That'd have been him for sure.
I wanted to see him on Bass Live. Like, oh my God, there's 10 of them chasing it. Oh, you know how he would, you know, he would have just came unglued when a school of 5 founders are swimming after it and stuff. But and about that notion, you guys are offshore guys, and we were talking about it. Like, it was like, man, you're doing it the right way, or like you're bold in doing this strategy. But like in college, I remember when we go to the Tennessee River, we wouldn't make a cast for 3 days. We would scan all day long. You'd take a nap in the passenger seat and get sunburned while your partner graphs, and you didn't make a cast. And then it was time for the tournament. Let's see what our schools turned into, and how that was praised of like, man, you worked so hard and you graphed for 10 straight hours, 3 straight days, daylight to dark, and you were graphing for schools and you found them. And now it's like the same people do that on their trolling motor with forward facing. And it's like a bad thing. Like you just go out there in the middle and looking for them. Brother, I have scanned 90% of Pickwick and I've been there 4 times. That's how much we scanned. And I don't even scan. I don't even like scan. You know, it's like, so it's just something that like the Tennessee River heyday with side scan was praised so much of like that style of graph. Let's just go see and, you know, present a hair jig or present a crankbait first and see what big ones bite. And now it's like this next generation's staying out there longer, fishing harder, trying to search longer and more. And it's like, it's a bad thing, but it's like the same mentality that like the Tennessee River Rats would have did, or, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Insane work ethic going on out there with these rookies and not just rookies, other ones. You know, you see some of these videos, like I watch Drew Cook and Brock Mosley and those guys on their practice videos. They're out there daylight to dark. So
Brock's one of the hardest workers on the elites for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what you have to do though now is work super, super hard. But you're right, it's not getting talked about enough that how hard these guys are actually working. And then when they leave a lake, they're going to the next lake. They're not going home. They're going to pre-practice. They're staying on the road. They're going to go learn that lake. And everybody's like, oh, well, it's not fair. You know, he's got the resources to do this. I was like, so what? So go do it. Find the resources. Go do it.
Davey told, so there's two older generation to younger generation, like, you know, like hammering down on them type of stories that Davey told. And then we played something from Falcon. And so Davey was talking about how, and this isn't a shot at Denny Brower because Denny was just older than Davey at the time. And it was just like, they wanted a change on the off limits or like the practice time you're allowed to do, because Davey coming in was young and would just like, I gotta learn these lakes. I'm fishing against guys who know these. I gotta like fish.
Yeah.
And so when he wasn't home, or when he wasn't fishing a tournament, he was somewhere practicing and wasn't hunting, wasn't, he wasn't shooting deer, wasn't shooting turkeys, wasn't wakeboarding out there. Like he was practicing. And how older generation of anglers were like, dude, these young guys just have too much free time. I've got to go to expos because my sponsors want me. And it's like a drawback. You either have no sponsors and you're young in the sport and your only way of making money is by cashing checks, or you've done so well that now sponsors want to pay you, but you're not going to be able to practice as much or be on the water as much. But what do you value? 50,000 for doing expos and appearances, or 50,000 because you made 5 checks in 5 elites in a row and you're going to make a classic and you're going to stack these good events. Like that's the thing. And then, so Davey was talking about back then when he was young, he would get hate from an older generation for fishing too much. And then what was funny was when we had Fork and we were getting close to the Falcon record for the all-time weight record, we played a feature that Paul Elias did in 2008 when he won. He said, man, I never dreamed, that I would win with this weight, that we would have this big, like, this is crazy. And in there, his soundbite said, I'm just glad one of the old guys did it. One of the old guys got it done, for the record in 2008. So
Yeah.
was he taking a shot at Casey Ashley because that was Casey Ashley's rookie year, or was he taking a shot at, Brandon Polnick wasn't even around yet, but then it was still like an old guy versus young guy. If we're going to have a record for the most weight, I want an old guy to have, it was like a weird territorial thing. And it's like, we have seen, like, this isn't new of old guys hating on young guys. It's just because we have so many young guys doing well. It's not one or two guys, it's the whole field, and so it is funny though. Davey's like, I got hated on. And then is like, and then Paul Ice like, old guys rule. I want the record with us. And you're like, it's funny. So it is crazy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
For sure. It's definitely been the biggest swing though. Like, did you see that deal? I think Jody might have put it out or something with MLF. It was like a stat sheet of like the Toyota Series top 10s and stuff's like the youngest Toyota Series championship, Toyotas, whatever. And it was like he was doing it by age group. And it's definitely been a big swing. Like the average age of top 10s in the Toyotas and Opens and like it's definitely dropped for sure. And I think maybe that's where the real issue is. It's not like just old versus new and generally, just because it's like, dude, like these young guys all across the country are catching them. And does technology play a role in that? What's that?
I think that's because they're starting, with high school and college, they're kind of getting a platform.
I don't know. Maybe
and you're starting to kind of see the results of having high school and college fishing.
I think definitely. Yeah. Now that you say that, for sure. I think that helps, but I think you're lying to yourself if you don't think technology plays a role in that.
For sure.
As bad as, because I'm with it. I'm like, hey, these guys are out working you, like they're working their butts off, just like that we were always taught to do. I know we do. We work our butts off around here.
You got to. There's a little pro circuit down there. You got to.
Yeah, always.
I'll say that these guys, the young guys that you could list them off from the Toyotas, from the Opens, from whatever, they didn't start fishing when the LVS 34 came out.
No.
So thank you, Gerald Swindle. Thank you, Mike Iaconelli. Thank you, thank you, Brandon Polnick. Thank you, all of these guys who grew the sport. They were a part of that generation that said, we need to grow the sport. Sport. Now this is just me, just an opinion. They may have selfishly said that because we want more people to fish. We want more money in the sport. We want to make more money. We want it to come back to us. That might have been some of their thought, but some of it is pure of we want to see younger generations fishing. We don't want them on the Xbox. We want them on the tackle box. That's stupid. That's stupid saying I always heard because I play Xbox and I fish. So it was like I did them both, and I hate I don't use forward facing. So it's like I'm not any of the thing you want to praise.
Yeah.
But they grew the sport and popularity through ESPN back in the day, through Tommy and Z on the show, these big time events, the drama, moving into Fox and having so much national TV time for live. Bassmaster Live kickstarted that as well. Kids in high school not even paying attention in English class, watching Bass Live on Thursdays and Fridays. And so they did a fantastic job of growing the sport. And my big concern always was, we're just putting more pieces of bubble gum. We got the Hubba Bubba and it is just growing. If someone pops the balloon, we're growing the balloon. We need to manage the balloon, because if we pop it, we're going to have so many people. The lakes are going to be crowded. The tournaments are going to be full. The fish are going to get pressured. The companies are going to thrive, but then the industry is going to change. And we have seen that. And I said, I'm not trying to grow the sport. I'm trying to maintain, I'm trying to protect, because if it gets too big, it'll be out of our bounds. We won't have enough tournament series for all these fishermen. We won't have enough opportunity, and regulating things of all these fishermen is going to be difficult. And now we're seeing it explode. And so, these younger generation didn't start fishing when the LVS 34 came out. They just were like, hey, I love flipping a jig, and I'm going to finish 10th. I'm going to finish 15th. I'm going to finish 35th. But this new thing, I just learned so much about the way my swim bait comes through the water and how fish react to it. And I threw a clear one, and then I threw a chartreuse one, and I saw the way they reacted to it. And then now I'm learning that they're actually not shy with chartreuse when it's bluebird skies. They actually they're learning things that we thought were myths, and now they're like, what else is there to learn? And we're the curious generation. I feel like the 20-year-old, they're the curious generation. They're not being rebellious for any reason, but they're questioning what past generations have said, because they're finding out truths for their own. They're figuring it out for the first time almost. And so, does rate of fall in your jig when you're fishing in 3 feet of water really matter that much? You'll be able to see that when you're pitching at a fish on a tree and you see it, so I think that's a huge thing on the learning.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. They're breaking the old handbook per se. I know
we're kind of rewriting it right now.
Right. Hey, these fish out here, I don't know. Maybe these all don't go up to spawn, or maybe
they're not just lethargic. They actually will feed out there suspended.
Yeah. It's cool, dude. And that's another issue lies there with some of the other guys. But I think at the end of the day, man, it's just a beautiful thing, and to me, it's the best sport. It's the best sport in the world. But man, it sure is different. It's a crazy sport, and but I sure do love it. That's for sure.
So from a commentating point of view here, so you guys, there's been so much going on, right? We've touched on all these subjects: rookies, forward-facing sonar. I mean, that's got to make your job tough, right? I mean, you have your own personality, your own social media, but you also probably have to be a little cautious and careful on how you engage in some of the drama you see on these platforms. I mean, you don't always hold back.
You see me get after some people, and Tommy's always like, "Why are you talking into that little box in your hand? Stop! You don't have to do that." And so I'm like, I know. And so I'm getting better at it now that I've hit 30. I just read the comments to them. I don't respond to as many, but no, it's difficult because people are like, I watch all of Bass Live, and I'm like, brother, you're preaching. We watch every minute. That's my job, is to watch every minute.
Yeah.
So you're preaching to the choir. I see it. And I don't know. I love seeing people catch big fish and more fish. That's what we did. Why did they schedule the lakes they scheduled at the early elite series when everyone was breaking the Century Club 5 times a year, 5 tournaments a year? We'd break the Century Club because they were going to big places to catch big fish, to see what we could. And now we're doing that, but it's just technology is helping raise the weights of a lake that would be 70 pounds and it's going to take 85. I mean, Murray is great. Did we think post spawn Murray was going to break 94 pounds? No. I put it at 80, and I still think 20 pounds a day gets disrespected too much. Wheeler could be 20 pounds a day, and it might be our lowest weight tournament other than Smith this year. It'll be crazy. And so I'm just all about watching people catch more and bigger fish. They'll get better at telling us what they're seeing. We'll get better at showing everyone what they're seeing. And like, I know I have lost plenty of hours of sleep figuring out who to send which camera guy with, so which units we can plug into to see the feeds. And we're in the middle of the day and I'm like, we haven't seen a feed today. Is there something wrong? And they're like, we haven't seen it pop up yet. And I talked to the camera guy and they troubleshoot it and we figure it out while we're live, like making sure, because in all honesty, we need to hire like 4 or 5 more people just dedicated to the tech side of it to execute 100%. Otherwise we're going to just be like doing our best. And so with what we've done, like a week before the elite season started, we were like, okay, we're going to plug into every graph we can and try to do this. You know, like before we were like reserved, like what are we allowed to do? Like, what are we going to do? And so we didn't have much time to prep. If I would have known that in December or November, we would have been able to be way ahead of the game. But I went down to Toledo Bend to see the boats on the off day, Wednesday, check out as many graphs as I could, plug in and test, and then drove 5 hours back to do live the next morning so that we could figure out. And then we had Robert G's graph all week. Yeah. Some of the coolest, over 35 feet of water. And you're watching, like you drop it down and you see one, he's teasing one, and there's one under the trolling motor that swims 30 feet away from the boat to come to the bait. And it's the one that bites. And the one he was teasing didn't even bite, but it got competitive. And so, I don't know what's to come in the future. I just love watching bass fishing, and I've grown up watching guys stand there with their back to us and look down, or stand there, flip a jig and not say a word. And I don't know what they're thinking, or are they thinking about 5/8 over 3/8? Have they already tried that? Like, they're not saying anything. What do I, and they're just flipping along old school style, and they're not saying anything. And so I'm not learning. And so I think the more these guys talk, the more they balance that deal, the better the show will be. And we'll get better every year with it, obviously. And so, I mean, we have the forward facing, tech committee. It's not just forward facing, it's the tech committee, but it's, evaluating stuff. And we've had meetings every other week for 2 hours to decide on what we could do. And I think that we'll have a resolution, in the next month or so that the Elite Series anglers find out about. But before everyone qualifies and signs up next year, like, they'll know what the rules are and what we've decided. And that's not like a set in stone forever. That's like you evaluate it year to year, or every 3 years, or we're going to lock it in and not change for a few years, or when tech changes, we change. Like, there's things that to be malleable and flexible and fluid. So our show will change and it'll be different. Does it stink sometimes? For sure. Does it stink when we go 5 hours and no one in the top 10's caught a bass? For sure. We don't have that anymore. People
It's got to be so tough to be on live and just keep.
People catch bass at all hours, and they're actually highly motivated to catch bass, because if you're not using it, you're expecting others they're still catching them. If there's a guy fishing docks, the pressure's on him because he knows somebody who's not, and they're fishing off a point or fishing in a creek channel, they're catching them. So I better know without a shadow of a doubt my pattern is strong, or I gotta go change up, and so it's almost like the 5 fish limit style that we all love and enjoy is meshed with the pressure of the format of the other league with catch all you can catch, where you can't rest on your laurels. You can't sit back and be okay because someone's catching them elsewhere. I think it's almost like the two pressures that people highlight over here with catch all you can catch pressures with 5 fish limit, where I get my 5 and the guy doesn't put it on the trailer at 10 o'clock. He's got to continue to figure it out, because he might be top 5 today, but if that pattern falls off tomorrow, he's going to drop to 12th because those guys aren't going to settle. And then he's going to drop to 20th, and he's going to start the week in 3rd and end in 37th. That's not the way you want to go. So they got that. I got it. Never settle. Always got to catch them bigger. And so it's an exhausting way, but I love doing what we do on Bass Live. Like, who would have thought I could pay my bills and we can talk about bass fishing? I mean, that's I always tell the story of meeting Tommy and Zona at the Classic in Birmingham in 2010 when Van Dam won in beeswax at Lay Lake. We were on the water watching it all go down. It was a great Classic to go to because all, top 12 were in the same creek. So I got to see everybody. But we go to the weigh-in. They're doing the hooked up stage, straight to ESPN live that evening, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock after the weigh-in's done. And I'm standing there watching them do it, and the crowd is there. And then the crowd dissipates, and my dad's like, be patient. If you want to meet them, like, you're going to have a chance. And I just, in 2010, when I was just a kid, I was like, I would love to work with you. I think I called him Mr. Mark, and Mr. Tommy. I said, I would love to like work with you guys one day. And freaking, 4 or 5 years later, like, what the heck? I was like, this is crazy. Like I did it. Holy cow. And so I now know that there's 18-year-olds that want to do the same thing. And they're like, I want to take Ronnie's job. And I'm like, let's do it. Like, if you're better than me, come prove it and take my job, so that we have the best of the best covering it live that we do. Like, if I'm not good, then come beat me, and so, and that's not like a cocky thing. That's like, I want the best, the people who love this sport to cover it live. Sure. And so with Tommy, Z, Davey, Such, myself, we spend a lot of time dedicated to it. So I love it. It'll change. Is it refreshing to see frog bites in topwater? 100%. Am I mad that Patrick Walters goes from a walking topwater to a fluke that he's reeling right under the surface and we don't see a blow up? Not one bit. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Because that chartreuse fluke that Trey McKinney's working, and you see that fish come up and eat it. I mean, like, what are we talking about? We see it from the drone. We see it from the boat. I said,
how do you get any better than that?
I think we saw somebody one day. It was like, I said, all angles. It was like, we had the camera footage of it. We saw it on a drone, and we had a feed of their electronics of like so that's the new thing. We used to fly helicopters around. Now we have a drone that flies around. You can see in the boat, above the boat, below the boat, all at the same time on live TV with no delay. If that boy cusses, he cusses right immediately. Like, we're like, oh shoot, like, no delay. Yeah. And so it's changing. I don't know what we'll do. We'll probably have chest cams live at some point.
That'd be crazy. Well, you touched on something there a minute ago that Wyatt and I have talked about a bunch. Because we're always talking about it. What can make this more entertaining? And you guys are clearly doing a lot to do that. But are you guys kind of working with the anglers and trying to do a little coaching? Has that been a conversation as far as like, should we bring somebody in like a media coach to really kind of lean in and try to pull more from these anglers? Like, I know you're not the most talkative guy, but give us something. Just give us a little, share these thoughts with us. Are you guys doing any of that? I think
I try to coach. Z tries to coach as much as possible. Just like, hey man, tell us what you're doing. Like, And I always tell that to anglers, like when I talk to them on the phone, tell me the absolute truth. If you are sponsored by this crankbait company, but you're throwing this crankbait, tell me. Yeah. And tell me that you don't want to highlight the brand that you're throwing. We will say you're throwing a crankbait. But if you don't tell us and you hide it and you lie, the second we see it, we call it out for what it is. That's a Raptor DT10. Like if you didn't, you didn't tell us, and we can't play dumb to it. We don't know what to play. So tell us the truth, and we'll protect you. And then when you get the chance and you're live, and I think that's probably where we maybe need to get a little better from the crew wise, is letting each angler know when they're live. But I say the reason we haven't done that as well is because we change so frequently. We got a guy in a 4-box. We got him in now a 2-box because one guy started running, so we had to go to just 2 shots. We take that guy live. He's got to go to the bathroom. Like, we don't have enough time to let them know they're live, and then they're going to be live for 5 straight minutes. Like, that's what live mix is. It's we're watching a dude, and we might watch him for 5-10 minutes. Then we switch to the next dude and we watch him. And so on live, the actual show, it is cutting. It is moving so quick. Now we may do an idea for some guys, at least one guy every day. I've pitched this and we might do it where we have like we used to do with Tommy and Z when they would call in to an angler and they would like the leader. They're talking to the leader in the shows, like it's they're chatting with them and asking them a few questions. Okay, we'll let you go. Thanks, guys. And then you see him like hand the phone to the cameraman. We have AirPods these days. We might have a phone and some AirPods and we may slip it to an angler. And for 5 minutes, we get to just talk to him. And then we're just asking them questions. Maybe we're getting the elaboration from his morning flurry that we're replaying over him talking about it right now. We don't have to let him know, hey, we're replaying your catches, but hey, tell us about that flurry this morning, what you were seeing, how those fish were reacting, and they do it, and we're showing that, and the fans are like, I got it now. And so there's things that we want to definitely get better at, and we try to lay out when anglers are telling and actually talking and giving the goods, because they're the expert. We want to hear from them. And that's like I don't know, it's like basketball. Like the commentators are going to commentate. And when they have a sideline interview, they listen and they're hearing the guy talk. But otherwise, it's on their job to carry the whole show. No dead periods, no bad moments. And so that's what we try to do at times. But when those guys talk, we know it's valuable info at times.
Yeah, for sure.
And then they give us, wait, we're going to lay out and list them. And they're like, man, today it sucked. I got to take a pee. And you're like, okay, well, never mind. Okay, let's keep going again. So we don't even know Jordan's doing it, and he's just being sneaky, and he's just going to the bathroom, and we're like, oh my God, he's going to the bathroom.
Like, whoops. I mean, it was a funny moment. There's no
no, it's all good.
Not a big deal. It's just reality of the sports.
It's an 8-hour show. It's an 8-hour tournament. No other sport goes for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Every sport goes for 2.5 to 3 hours. And we got these guys going for 8. There's going to be down times where there's no catching. I'm okay with that. There's going to be times where it's fast and furious and we can't show it all enough quick enough. And then there's going to be times where it's just like, bro, I got to eat some combos and drink a Mountain Dew as we run to this next spot. And you're like, that's life. We got to do it.
Yeah, no doubt.
So who are some of you? So you get to watch everybody, right? Who are some of your favorites that you personally enjoy watching and covering? Like watching fish, learn from.
Let me pull up the elite field real quick. Let me just scroll the list. I think I'm just going to list them off alphabetically when I see them, but I think Benton's great at times. I think that Stetson's good. Stetson's a great speaker and explainer. I really, it's not because he lives 15 minutes away. I really think that he has it. He has the ability to speak well, the skill to back it up. New school, old school, like he could be. I could see his stock rise over the next few years, especially how consistent he is. I love Lester. I think Lester's fantastic. Now, do we love watching John Cox? For sure. Does John Cox explain things? Not real well, because it's hard. It's like I used to say, Mike Iaconelli or Gerald Swindle would tell me how to fish a square bill, and it sounds doable. Like I could do what they're saying. KVD explains how to do a square bill. I'll listen. There's no shot I can emulate a square bill retrieve like KVD. Like he's leaving out crucial details he doesn't even know to explain, because that's just innately, like, it's just natural.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes we listen, but he's not as great of an explainer. And so Cox is fun to watch, but doesn't, necessarily do that as great. I think John Garrett has star potential. I think him at the Harris chain, he explained very well how those fish were set up and what they were doing. Obviously, guys like Hackney are fun to watch. They're just full of knowledge, and you just let them go, because Hackney will just shoot the braze with his cameraman. And so I like to just listen like a fly on the wall. Like, I just want to hear what he's saying. Yeah. I think that Cody Huff has star power.
Oh, yeah.
And it's no coincidence that Garrett and Huff are college fishermen as well. They have been on camera well before they turned pro to know how to do that. Livesey's pretty good. He could still have some teaching in him to get better. I think Kyle Patrick teaches really well. I'm looking down him now in the P's and the R's. I really think the world of Brian Schmidt. I think that he is. It's more shocking when he does poorly for me, because he is a high quality finish machine. He is a winner. One of the most
on my fantasy team. Man,
he wins. He is like the guy to have the second or third most wins in bass fishing history. Like, you think about KVD's number of wins, Thrift's won a bunch of times, Schmidt's won a ton. And I was going to make a joke the other day, like, Schmidt's ideal 2025 elite schedule: Potomac, Chesapeake, Potomac, because he got fourth at the Potomac. Like, he just is so good, and he may be a Champlain in there, but Walters could be great. but Walters chooses not to give all the goods because he likes to hold back some secrets. He's a little sneaky. He's sneaky.
That son of gun, Patrick Walters is a winner too, bro.
Man, he is so
He's
good.
won a lot.
I saw it. I fished against him in college. I covered him in college, and it's like I now look back and I'm like, how did I lose to Patrick Walters by 3 ounces at Pickwick? Or like, how did I beat Patrick by a pound at Chattooga? Like, how the heck did that happen? How in the world did that happen? I had shorted out graphs. I didn't even have electronics on the boat. How in the heck did we get lucky enough to beat? Like, did he just hit another gear? And he did. He did hit another gear, and I told that to Z when we had the big split, and then we had a whole huge group of 25 or 30 guys coming in. He said, "Who are 3 guys you're thinking about?" And I said, "Walters, Cook, and Hudnall." And Hudnall would have 2 extra classics to his resume if he didn't fish into the off limits at Hartwell on accident. The 30-day off limits, he fished 1 day into it and wasn't able to fish that event, so he missed the classic that year. Would have made it. And then he didn't make it back at Champlain. He went to tie and didn't make it back with the wind and waves. He would have made the classic if he made it back there. And so it's like that guy just retired. You add 2 classics, he's still fishing possibly. And so, but I felt really good. I felt super smart when I was like, yeah, Walters is going to be one of the guys. And then he is one of the guys. I'm like, thank God. I knew, yes. The one that's puzzled me the most is Justin Atkins. I really, when he qualified, he was so good in college, fished against him, covered him. He goes into FLW, wins the Forcewood Cup. He's won the TBF, I think, from the back of the boat, or the Everstart Championship from the back of the boat back in the day. And then he goes and wins the Forcewood Cup and makes the BPT and does those things. Then he qualifies for the elites from the opens. And I was like, man, he's coming. He's going to be, and just hadn't gotten the full season traction I expect. So he's starting to piece it back together like I expect on the elites. But yeah, I think like it's weird. He's like turned into a northern guy. Like he's really good at smallmouth fishing. And some of the largemouth things have puzzled him, but he's one that I'm like, if he picked it back up, people who just started watching the elites in 2020 would be like, where'd this guy come from? He's been sucking for a few years or not doing what you guys said. And now he's going crazy. Like, I wouldn't be shocked because I know he has the ability to go on a run. Yeah, he's got it.
Yeah.
Some guys, it is like all caps, like that. It's a capital I, capital T. Some guys have it, and it's like I T T T T T T, like they got it. You know what I mean? And then some guys it's lowercase it, but you're like they could make it all caps. You know?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much talent in our sport. It's so ridiculous. There's so many guys that are just.
I thought Shane was going to do it. Shane almost won you follow. I thought we were about to see a run.
Man,
I hate to say, I thought we were about to.
You want to talk about the weight of a bad event? I mean, I look back at Bugs Island, and that's the one that kept me out of the elites last year. That was an absolute bomb. Yeah. Anyway, while we got you, what's that?
Sorry to bring that up.
No, it's all good, man. I had a great year. I really enjoy fishing the opens, and I don't know how much of this you listen to. I know there's a million podcasts out there, but I often talk about how fun the opens are to fish, and I would love to get back there. But it's look at guys like Hudnall. It's an expensive venture, and you have to be responsible. I'm a little bit older than some of these guys. Got a family, 2 kids. I can't just be out there sleeping in my truck. That's not an option for me. So I have to weigh my options. But I encourage anybody that wants to fish it. Go fish the opens. They're a blast. It's probably the hardest field to compete against. Matter of fact, I think anybody would say it is. It's tough. You're going to get your feelings hurt, but there's a ton of opportunity there. So it's a great platform, and hope to get back to it. But
I think that the next few years, I think we're about to fulfill and finalize a extension with Fox. I think that they love the product of bass fishing, and the opens have gotten their attention and other people's attention so much, even though it's just one day alive. The views are great. It's dramatic. We build these stars and then they translate to the elites, and you're like, we're no longer like who's good in this rookie class. We've seen them on live for a couple events in their qualification path. And so, I mean, we'll have 3 days of coverage for Hartwell for the final event of the season. We're going to have live all 3 days. The first 2 days on FS2, and then we'll be on FS1 on the final day. And so, like, that tells me when we want to do more and more and more, but we have to have a reason to do more and more and more. And when Fox and FS1 are like, hey, we want to put you guys, any tournaments that you guys do, we'll do. And then they're like, hey, why don't you do 3 days for the final one? And we're like, let's do it. Okay. And so now it'll be on national TV to a certain extent. FS2 might not be in every household like FS1 is, but 2 straight days during the week on national TV, and then the weekend to end it. And we're going to crown qualifiers, and classic spots get solidified, and drama of who's going to win that event. I think that's huge. And so building on that for next year, I think Hank is the perfect tournament director for the Opens, because Hank has built up, he came in on the ground floor of the college series as a college angler, and then jumped into bass, and then started to get the opportunity to do college and high school. He helped grow that in the time where we were growing the whole sport of youth fishing, like Wyatt was talking about, and you were talking about, like high school and college have propelled a lot of people, and Hank helped drive that machine. And then now it's stepped up to the Opens as we're now transitioning to more eyeballs, more qualifier opportunities. Like, how are we going to do this TV now with the Opens? I think he's the perfect tournament director to now carry us into that next explosion in growth, especially because he also schedules, like he's been scheduling tournaments on different bodies of water for years. And so I know the Open schedule is going to be diverse, times of year, venues. I even suggested 1 or 2 places we haven't gone in a while. And he said, as soon as so-and-so finishes that launch site or this launch site,
yeah,
I could see it. I could see us going there. I'm like, let's go. Like, Hank's already on it. He's on it. Don't be Googling. You guys are going to hang up and Google what lake is putting in a brand new ramp. Like, because then you'll find out the lake. No, but it's one of those things of like, I think the next era of the Opens is one that I'm excited to be a part of,
Yeah, no, it's going to be exciting to watch. It's really cool. But, well, before we let you go, let's preview this big derb we got starting tomorrow.
Man, Wheeler, I got to go there in 2016 for the Elite, the most recent one when Talk won. I got to cover Dave Lefebvre. He was flipping bushes, and it was late April. I think late April, maybe early May, like that transition from the month to month. It was on the back-to-back of the Bull Shoals and Norfolk event. The it's in the box. Like, I gave you half a mile tournament. Wheeler was the next week there, and obviously we know the Decatur Flats are going to be a thing.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting, talking with my boy, at least, I don't know if y'all like him. I think you do. He's a likable guy. Sam George, talking with Sam, he's talking about how, Wheeler fluctuates and gets high with the water and gets a lot of current through it, because Gunnersville can only hold so much. So they push a lot of water through Wheeler, through Wilson, to get it to the next big body of water, Pickwick and Kentucky Lake, which can hold more water. So they got to kind of flush it straight through. If the gates are open over here, the gates are open over here, and it's just going through. Yeah. So maybe those fish don't spawn as early as other Tennessee River lakes. So maybe they're not fully offshore. There's still some shallow fish. I see on Instagram mayflies all over the trees. They may be a pester. Yeah, they may be a pest in our face, but boy, that could make for some fun fishing opportunities there. And so I'd expect a shallow, an offshore bite. The Elk River could factor like it has in the past. The reports are that the water level and the water color look good. And then that, you're just kind of topped out, maybe 17 to 18, 19 pounds, maybe not those upper 20s or mid 20s. And so I think that we'll see, I'd expect 20 pounds a day to win it. Every time I think it's lower, the elites always catch them better. So it could be a boat number thing, but it also could be a thing that, since they slowed down the water current, you could find where they're at when there's no current flow in practice, and then they move 100 yards on you to the next ambush point when the current's flowing, and so someone could find them in a different stretch of the flats and be on them and you don't know that your fish went over there. And so
Yeah.
I think that Wheeler could be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. I'm even looking forward to Smith. I just like watching fishing live. If it's a grind, it's a grind. Sabine's always one of my favorite tournaments of the year because the uncertainty of it. They get bites, but there's also who gets the 4-pounder.
Who gets the big bite.
You can't just catch 5 fish for 8 pounds and be like, I'm okay today. No, someone's going to catch a 4 and they're going to make their tournament. So you better go look for a 4,
Yeah. I think Decatur Flats. I mean, I think we went there last year in the opens. 5 days of practice with 225 guys is just too much on that lake. I mean, all those fish were abused. So, everybody kind of found, and we went there a touch earlier with the open, so they weren't quite offshore good. They were starting to get there. There was a couple groups.
You don't have shad spawn?
No, I didn't. I mean, there was a little bit of a shad spawn, but it wasn't really like, I think it was kind of towards the tail end of the shad spawn, but it wasn't quite summertime offshore. But when you put that many boats on those flats, which had the winning fish on them, it just became too much sharing. Now with the elites, it's a little different. You have 100 guys versus 225, 2 days of practice or 2.5 days of practice versus 5 days. And the elites are a little bit better practicing. Let's be honest. I mean, opens guys love,
baby.
Set the hook. And, I see it all the time. I see the Instagram posts of, hope, 10 of these show up or whatever, I catch 5 of these tomorrow. And it's like, man. But, funny story, actually. So I was boat 30 and I went out to the spot and I was like, I don't know which one. I had 3 groups. I was like, I don't know which group I want to start on, but I passed 2 up, and I normally have a rule: don't pass fish to go to the next group. If I'm running down the lake, stop on the first group. But I didn't do that. I went to the furthest group because I thought I was going to had the best size. I get there, maybe 30 seconds later, here comes Bobby Lane. We're both, but we're cool. We're talking, having a good time, and I catch 3-pounder. He goes, man, are they here? And I said, I don't think they're here, man. He's like, well, I don't know. I caught a 6 and a 4 here in practice. And I'm like, well, I caught 2 4s here in practice. And then, I knew Garrett had caught a 4 there in practice because we talked about that school. And I just realized, I was like, I pulled the trolling motor. I was like, I'm out of here. This thing is done. We've already caught 20, 30 fish out of the school. And but I think it's going to spread out a lot more for the elite guys, and they'll be able to catch some better weights off of it.
Yeah, I really do think that because they expect, there are guys in the opens who knew about the Decatur Flats, but they didn't know what the full capability was. So they're like, I need to go try it. The elite guys know. Lee Livacy's idling out, and he's like, I've never been to Wheeler, but I know the Decatur Flats are going to be a deal. I know there's going to be a shallow bite. And I'm like, it's the same thing Trey McKinney and them are like, I'm at Murray, and I've never fished blueback herring, but I know they do this because the YouTube and the internet and just learning how lakes fish, you already know that Wheeler's got an area offshore that if you're trying to see if they're out there, that's an easy place to go look and see if they're out there. If they are, then they could be elsewhere. And then you've got a shallow bite. And so, yeah, like you said, there's going to be guys who didn't even need to fish the Decatur Flats hard. They're just going to be able to use all their time to find something else. And if they don't, they know they can fall back on that. They know that, hey, it's just like, and I said this before Gobi got an Oneida, there's a couple places that in the world where when you're fishing an open or you're fishing any tournament, but at Oneida before the Gobies got there, which has changed, and the smallmouth now feed down more than up on the bait fish. When you're running to your spot, you fish all practice trying to develop a spot. And when you're running to your first spot, if you see birds diving, you stop because there's smallmouth there. And if you can catch 15 to 18 pounds there, you don't have to go hit your stuff. You can save it. It's the same thing at Wheeler this week. If someone found a great pattern elsewhere, but they get boat 5, I'm going to the Decatur Flats. I'm going to go catch a good limit. If I need to go cull, I got my stuff. If not, save it for day 2, 3, and 4. That's just the way it goes. Somehow, always, Cody Ross and Dewey Swims, Bethel University, some of the best ledge fishermen in college fishing. They knew where to go on Pickwick. They knew how to do it, and they'd get boat 10, and they would go to the community hole that they knew was going to get pressured, and they'd be the first boat there, and they'd catch 22 pounds before I even left the dock. And I'm like, brother, why can't we let the great guys get boat 150? Why do they have to get boat 10? How did that work? even though the next day it is flipped. But yeah, there's going to be guys who can save some of their shallow stuff or some of their other stuff because they get a boat draw and they can go to Decatur Flats and catch a good limit quick.
Yeah.
But it might still be tough. But I don't mind the tough ones. I don't mind.
That's gonna be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I haven't even picked my fantasy team yet.
Well, I
got to pick tonight
for your viewing pleasures. We'll have Trey on camera because he's AOY leader. Okay. We'll have Swindle. Got to catch him. He's got to catch him starting tomorrow. Like he's 97th in points. If he wants to make the Classic, he's got to catch him every day of the season that he gets to fish. So we'll get to see, him in his home state, not far from home. We will see Wes Logan, who's won, obviously right down the road and had a good finish at Gunnersville. And then what is that? Oh, we'll have Steve Kennedy. Of course, you got to get the guy who's got the Bass Pro Shops discontinued swim baits. We got to get that guy on there. And then we'll have Logan Parks, and then we'll have Brandon Lester. So we'll have McKinney, Swindle, Kennedy, Logan, Lester, and Parks. So good mixture of Alabama offshore guys, some other storylines to play as well. And we'll watch that go down on day one.
For sure. I think Logan's going to do well. I think Milliken's going to do well. I think Milliken did well there when y'all were there, Shane. I think it'll fit his style really well if they are set up offshore.
He's had some issues this week mechanically, so we'll see how much time he lost.
I saw that. Yeah, got robbed or something too. Like Jesus,
attempted robbery.
Yeah, golly, dude.
Yeah, they really wanted the hangover swim bait. I mean, they were trying to get in that back box.
Decatur's a little sketchy. Let's be honest. Decatur's a little sketchy. It's lock your stuff up.
Got you.
Anyway, not trying to dog a town. Sorry about that.
No, hey, Ingalls Harbor's great, but put your boat cover on. You just never know.
I think the worst part about Wheeler is the cat food factory.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Meow mix.
So bad.
Good. I said, Steve Bowman said this to Kyle Jesse on the phone the other day, and Kyle told me, and I was like, that makes sense. Have you guys fished Dardanelle?
I haven't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fished it a couple times.
Wheeler is kind of like Dardanelle.
Really?
It's got those bars, those like off the bank things. It does get impacted by a lot of current at times. And then it's got those backwater, like shallow type water willow, like get up and do that stuff. And I said, Kyle, don't forget, they also have industrial stuff at Dardanelle that can smell bad sometimes too when they're operating. So I said, that's the other vibe. It's when you're rolling into the cat food factory, you can smell it. Dog food factory.
It's terrible.
So Gunnersville had theirs for, that does that sometimes back in the day. But no, I'm excited for Wheeler. Yeah. And I think that you'll be able to pick your poison. I think my fantasy team resembles that. I think, let me see. I picked, we did it in our episode, but I got to make sure because I said it and forget it. I never change it. Well, no, you need to watch it to avoid who I picked. But I've got Lester, Robert G, Taku, Kenta, and Matt Robertson. I think Taku, with the pressure and how they're not necessarily maybe as grouped up and it might be tougher, I think that somebody like Taku could finesse them. I think Kenta is just a big bait. He's made for the Tennessee River. I think Matt Robertson finally gets off the schneid. And then I think Robert G is gaining some traction. He kind of was as high as you can get at Toledo and almost as low as you can get at Fork. And so he punched in the mouth and then got punched in the mouth. And so now he settled out these last three events and figured it out.
Yeah. Wyatt keeps checking out. I think when he gets a phone call, it kicks him off. I know he's probably pissed.
He's busy.
How did you not pick John Garrett as your first one as Group A?
Because I think, let me see
I like that he's not picked by very many people. I mean, don't you get more points if he ends up doing well?
It's not more points. You just get a little leg up on the competition. If you pick something that 40% do, then you're stuck with
what everybody else is. Yeah, that
makes sense. But if you pick someone who's 4% and they do better than the 40% guy, then you're going to get points more than most of the players. Yeah, you're going to be able to get an edge on at least. It's not an edge in points. It's an edge over the other humans picking. Yeah, but
I see what you didn't.
I know John got top 5, I believe at
he did well, Wheeler. But I know he had to share a lot of water, so I could see him if he doesn't have to share water.
Lester on the Tennessee River.
That's true.
I
solid
like
pick.
Lester. And Lester's even more valuable at 2% compared to John. But
Yeah,
I've got
true.
John. I think I've got John in my Drain the Lake, which
Okay.
is one of my favorite game modes because I set it for the year. Like I picked these guys before they made a cast this season. I picked the whole schedule and wrote out every guy I wanted. And then I just go with my gut and I just stick with that, what I did at the beginning of the year. And so I've got John on my Drain the Lake, which you can only use them one time a year. So John, Logan Parks, Matt Robertson. I've got Wes Logan in there, Caleb Kufall, because I think he's done well in the Tennessee. For some reason, Midwest guys, Wisconsin, Minnesota guys do well in the Tennessee River. Combs, I think he has a good one. And then Kennedy and Fighter. I think Fighter, even if he's not happy to be going to Alabama in June, I think that it could go up his style. I think he could do just fine.
Yeah. I haven't played Drain the Lake yet. I haven't taken the time to figure out exactly how it works. So I need to do that. Maybe pick your brain about it one day.
Yeah, Drain the Lake. You got one opportunity to pick them, 8 slots. Once you pick them, you can't use them the rest of the year. And if you pick the guy and he wins, you get double points. If you pick the classic champ, when he wins the classic, you get triple points. Like, so you better pick them when they win. And I felt really good. I picked Walters at Toledo to kick off the year, like a low key sneaky pick, got second. And I was like, let's go. And then he wins Murray when it's like the most blatantly obvious tournament to do it on. I was either going to do Murray or I'm going to do a sneaky Toledo. And I did it and he got second. And then he wins Murray. And I was like, 50% of people just got double points and I did not.
Yeah.
So, you're like, dang it. But yeah. Well, I think Wyatt's done.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he probably didn't charge his phone, but we'll
saw him
turn you
schooling
loose.
on Rayburn. He wanted to go get out there.
He's going crappie fishing today. Oh, there he is.
Oh no.
Yeah, he wanted to go.
Hey.
What's going on there, Wyatt?
My phone overheated. It died. I mean, it's just going crazy.
Are you going crappie fishing today?
I am. We caught about 50 or 60 yesterday. We got to catch some more. We got to stock the freezer.
I'm out there busting my butt pre-practicing for our championship coming up.
Yeah.
Here's
Shane. Shane's complaining about too much practice in the opens, and he's a month early to Toledo, man. Can you believe that?
Did you see what was the 2 days, 58 pounds at Toledo?
Yeah. And that was
in June.
that was some old school grass flipping involved in that one.
Yeah. They look dark. They look dark.
Those guys.
Those guys are legit.
Those guys are old school hammers, grass flipping hands. It was kind of cool to see him win. Tim hasn't won one in a minute.
So before I leave, I got a question for you. Did Toledo play out the way you expected for the elites?
For the elites?
For me, it did.
100%.
I knew I knew they were going to be scoping them with a minnow for sure around Housing 6 Mile. Like it was. Yeah, they nailed it. They really did. So
yeah, no, I mean we got buddies that fish the elites, and we can't talk information and stuff, but we were surprised to see some of these guys like, man, you knew that was happening. Why weren't you doing that? Like, what are you doing?
They're fighting it. Like, it was the same thing at Fort. It was the same exact thing at Fort. Like they were fighting it. They knew. I love Lee to death. He's one of my favorite dudes in life. But he knew before they got there. He knew. And then day 2, he went and caught him doing a little bit of it. Like he knew. Like
if you don't catch him one single day at Fork, if you don't catch him in a single hour at Fork, you're like way behind. Like you're just losing track. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought Fork was going to break the record. Man, I thought he was going to do it. It was so close.
It was very, very close.
Pound and a half off, and he's 4th all time. That's how close that Falcon event was. With Elias, Scroggins, and Velvic. They were all right there. Velvic would have blown that out of the water if him and Aaron didn't get in that arguing match on the final day. That they were sharing that spot and they were just screaming. And Aaron fell down. I think he only had 16 pounds at Falcon the final day and got 8th or 6th. And Velvic had a better day, but lost. And like that was theirs to win. And Paul snuck in there. And Terry comes from 12th to 2nd with a 44-pound back. Like, golly.
That's
Man, that's
gross.
insane.
That's probably one of my
nuts.
favorite Bassmasters to watch. I have literally watched that
100% it is.
hundreds
Oh,
of
it's
times.
so crazy. So
100%
crazy.
it is.
The
100%.
It's
number
just
of times
something.
I say,
It's not
dude,
Earth. It's not Earth. It's
No.
where is it? And funny story. And for sure, you guys can let me go over this. But funny story is that we used on the cameras back in the day tapes. Cameraman would put a tape in, close
Yeah.
it, recording, take it out, label it. 3 fish. 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Whatever. Close it up, put it in the bag, put another tape in, and so it's just switching tapes out. And we've got the whole tape deck, library up there where they've got all the tapes and each day and the old shows and stuff. Scroggins, camera guy, I don't know who it was, had all of his tapes on the back deck, but because Scroggins caught all of his weight so fast, like it was all in the morning and it was like 10 casts, he caught 44 pounds or something crazy. He had that tape still in his camera, and they got on pad, and all the other tapes that were there for the day flew off the back deck into the lake.
No.
And so if he would have switched tapes after he got the juice, I'm switching the tapes, and put in another tape, that tape would have been in the lake. We'd have never seen Terry Scroggins' huge final day.
Oh, wow.
That's the only tape that survived, was the one in the camera, and it happened to have the 44 pounds.
Jesus. Thank you, Lord.
Thank
Just
you.
imagine if it was later in the day and he had already lost the tapes and he starts catching them and he has no more recording space. And he's like, dang it. I'm just watching this. I can't even film it on my Nokia. We don't even have cameras.
Yeah. I'm going to get fired.
So
That's
crazy,
awesome.
crazy funny story about that.
Yeah. Well, man, we really appreciate your time. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while now. And I think we're going to have you back because I got a long list of stuff we didn't even get to.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
my fault. That's my fault. It's
No,
always
it's good. Good conversation.
everyone's longest podcast ever is when I join. I'm sorry.
No, it really wasn't even the longest. It's just, there's so much to talk about and you got so much knowledge to share. So, I mean, that's kind of how we do it anyway. We just kind of let it go where it goes. We don't try to
For
structure
sure.
Hey, I'm just
For
glad
sure.
y'all had me on, because 2 years ago I chirped back at y'all when we created the college series that we
That
called
was
it the
Shane. You
Juice,
chirped
and
at
you
me,
were
that
like,
was Shane.
and he's like, "Oh, that's a funny title for a series," and I was like, "Brother, who are you?" And then I
You're like,
realized
who
who
the heck are
y'all. I
you,
was like,
man?
"Oh my gosh, that's hilarious."
You guys have like 50 Instagram followers. Shut up.
I was like, Shane, can I take a photo of you at the open? And he just flips me the bird. No, he didn't do that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
No, awesome guys. Well, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you
We'll have
having.
to do it.
Appreciate
It'll
you
be
coming on.
two elites in 3 weeks, and then we'll have a back-to-back to end it in August. Like, holy cow.
There you go.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. We're gonna go work on trying to qualify for the classic in this fall at Grand. So,
Grand Lake, baby.
yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And then Ray Roberts, that'll be a good one.
That'd be,
It'd be a good one to
awesome.
qualify
Yeah.
for.
I hate that they had the storms come through and mess up the marinas, man. I feel for those people. So
Yeah, that was terrible.
hopefully they get that figured out.
Yeah.
Especially for the community to capitalize on people who show up to watch,
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
No doubt.
Cool. See y'all.
All right, man. We'll be watching.
See you, bud.
See you.
Yeah, man. Dude, I saw you had some camera issues through
Well, look, I'm back on my webcam because this cam, the other.
Bro, mine,
whatever.
I had 2 Amber Alerts. My phone overheated. A phone call.
I figured it was
Jesus.
phone calls. It's not somebody was blowing you up.
No, Amber Alerts. Amber
I didn't
Alerts.
get an Amber Alert.
I got 2 of them. Child
Anyway, well, I'm
abduction.
not on my phone. I'm recording on a laptop. So,
Yeah.
but well, let's hope this episode even makes it to YouTube because I have no idea what's going to happen when I hit end recording. I don't know what the next step is.
It's recorded. Hour and
It
23
recorded
minutes.
it, so we got something out there, but it's not live.
A really cool
but,
episode, man. We gotta have Ronnie back on.
I'm telling you, dude, he just know. Like I made a list of some things I want to get to. I didn't get to any of it.
It's
I mean,
never
the dude is-
ending. We could talk to him about never.
Oh, we
ending.
could have him on often. Like he's got good stuff to cover. I kind of wanted to dive in more on like, like what his opinion of the future of the sport is. I know we talked about that a little bit, but I think the dude is a freaking fishing encyclopedia.
Ain't no doubt.
He knows
Dude.
everybody.
You got a birthday coming up this weekend?
Yeah, man.
What are you turning, about 50 or 55?
Nah, dude, we ain't even 40 yet, brother. I'll be
You're gonna
30.
you gotta be what, 38?
Yeah, they got turned 38.
He said, I think.
I don't
He
know.
knows.
I don't. I really don't. 38 or 37. I'm pretty sure it's 38. Let's see. 86. I was born in
Young
86.
man.
I'll be
You ain't
38.
even 40. You're young.
Man, I feel young.
Young.
I feel young and I feel dangerous. I feel good. I was out
That's
there late
awesome.
yesterday with Mr. Birch there, Mr. Jerry.
Yeah, I'm
riding
about
around
to.
in his rig.
Okay, we'll talk about this off camera, but yeah,
No, it
that's
can be. Toledo boys, we're coming.
coming. We're putting some time.
Putting in some time. But all right, dude, I'm gonna hit the end record button and see what happens.
All right.
All right, man. See you.